Thought I'd do a little bit of a live video today. That makes it easier on me when I record these ahead of time. They're huge files, so I thought I'd just go ahead and start working on this piece to show you some of the techniques that I do. Earlier, I just did acrylic and did most of this in Airbrush, and now I'm going back in with paintbrush, and this is still acrylic, and adding, kind of blocking everything in. And then when I'm done blocking it enough, I'm going to start in oil over the acrylic. I'm using burnt umber and raw umber mixture. Raw umber is kind of translucent, so I add the burnt umber in to give it a little bit more body. And I'm also using a real detailed Rosemary and Company Series 201. This is a real sharp pointed brush. It's a round, but it gives me a little bit more control. This is part of my series of paintings. The first one I did is called The Dreaming Tree. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this one. Someone suggested indigo as part of the title because there's going to be a kind of, this is actually going to be more purple. I just did a blocking in of the darker color blue in the trees. So I like the word indigo, so I thought maybe the flight of the indigo tree. Sounds a little hunky. I'm always adjusting my light so I can see what I'm doing. This kind of work here takes a lot of controlled use of the brush. I don't like to get outside my edges. I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive about that. I always work from left to right because I don't want my hand to get on the paint that I just worked on. I kind of picked that up from working in oils. Acrylic, you don't have to worry so much about it because it dries so quickly, but there is a possibility of smudging it. And you have to be very careful on that tip end there, because I don't want to get too thick on my paint. I should have this one done for Chattacon. It's a small piece. That means it's going to be cheaper. This tree looks like a spider to me, and so I'm trying to give it, I know it looks a little weird, but I'm kind of giving it a little more delicateness if I can by changing the roots. I had a friend who said that a lot of these pieces that I'm doing where the trees are floating, that's just Roger Dean. Well, Roger Dean although I've been influenced by his work over the years, I can't help it. He never actually did a tree independent, like floating, like this one. He did islands, like the land, like looks like an island, and then there's rocks and there's land. It almost looks like the earth has exploded and there are chunks of the earth that are floating, and that's where I think he's going with some of his pieces. But never independent of that. But you know, the whole idea of floating uh, objects like that in the air, that's Dean is not the first person I've ever seen that's done that. The first time I ever saw that was Magritte, and a lot of Magritte's work. He's a surrealist painter, and the first thing I ever saw was a cover for the book Myth of Sisyphus, where the cover is like a rock floating in the air. So Dean is not the first person. Even Bullwinkle, the cartoon of Bullwinkle, has floating pieces of land. I'm going back in on this because I had blocked it in before, but I had gone back with the airbrush and did some of the clouds in here, and it produced some overspray on my tree. So I have to go back in and touch that up and just fill it out a little bit more. Okay, almost done here. Sometimes I go over. And this is not done. This'll be different when I start working the oil on top of it, so that I can give it a little bit more shape, because you'll have light coming in on this side and probably some ambient light on the other side of the tree. A lot of painting is just kind of labor, but it passes the time. Or if you're an artist, it's more like the time goes by and you don't have any idea how much time you've been doing what you're doing. You kind of get lost in it. I apologize if you guys are talking, but I can't watch the screen and also paint at the same time, but I will get back to you. Just going to go in here and touch up these pieces. Okay, I think that's it for now. So you get a kind of a general idea. And I will show you more of this later when I start working on the oil part.